Number 10. The Dog Boy. The small town of Quitman, located in Cleburne County, Arkansas, is known for its rich history and picturesque Victorian-era homes. However, among these charming homes lies a dark history that has led to the town being known for its haunted houses. One such house is the Beatus House, a large home on Mulberry Street. This house has had a long and troubled history dating back to the late 19th century. The house was originally built by the Garrett family in the late 1800s. It was a grand and impressive home, and for many years it was the pride of the Quitman. However, in the early 1950s, the house was sold to the Beatties family. The Beatties family, consisting of Floyd and Aileen, were childish for many years until they had a son in 1954 named Gerald Floyd Beatties. Gerald Beatties was a difficult child from an early age, and he was known for being very vicious and cruel to others. He also had a strange interest in collecting stray animals and later torturing them. Then as he grew older, his behavior became more sinister, and he allegedly kept his elderly parents imprisoned in the upstairs part of the house, where he would only feed them when he decided it was time for them to eat. He was also known for physically abusing his father and throwing him out of an upstairs window on one occasion. It is believed by the locals that the spirits of the Garrett family, along with the spirit of Gerald Beatties, still haunt the house to this day. The haunt has been vacant for many years and local residents avoid it at all costs. Number 9. The Boggy Creek Monster. The small town of Fouke, Arkansas has long been captivated by the legend of the Boggy Creek Monster. According to the local legend, the creature, said to be between 7 to 8 feet tall and weighing around 300 pounds, is covered in thick long hair and has been spotted roaming the area for over a century. The first reported sightings date back to 1834, with a surge in sightings around Fouke in the 1900s. In 1997 alone, residents reported spotting the monster more than 40 times. The creature is often thought to be nocturnal, but one hunter even reported a sighting in broad daylight in the Sulphur River Wildlife Area near Fouke in 2000. The legend of the Boggy Creek Monster has been the subject of several films, with the most notable being 1973's The Legend of Boggy Creek. The movie, which centers around a supposed encounter with the beast by Bobby Ford, was most likely shot on location in Fouke and brought the legend to the attention of millions of people. The film also brought an economic boost to the region, with many cast members being locals or nearby college students. The famous encounter that the film is based on actually occurred in 1971. The Fords claimed that the Boggy Creek Monster attacked their home late on the night of May 1st. According to Elizabeth Ford, the creature reached through her screen window but was chased away by Bobby and his brother Dan. Unsatisfied, the monster reportedly returned shortly after midnight and tossed Bobby to the ground. Bobby was taken to the St. Michael Hospital in Texarkana and treated for large gashes across his back. Although no traces of blood were found at the Ford's home, 3-toed footprints were found near the house, there were scratches on the porch, and the siding and a window were both damaged. Number 8. Railroad track lights. There is a supposed haunted railroad track in Crowset, Arkansas, and after many reports, it has now become a hotspot for paranormal enthusiasts. According to the locals, a ghostly light appears to move up and down the tracks as if it's being held by a disembodied spirit. Some local residents claim that the source of this ghostly light is the spirit of a man who was hit by a train and decapitated, and now his ghost walks these tracks searching for his head. This is what it kind of looks like.
Oh my god, it's right. Daddy, I'm scared. No, I'm not kidding, Daddy, I swear. It's in the middle of the road. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not.
Many people who have visited the tracks have reported strange encounters with the ghostly light. Some claim that when standing on the tracks, the light will come towards them, disappear, then reappear on the other side. There are many videos available online that capture this strange experience, but it is unclear if the light is just an ordinary sight on the track or if there's actually something paranormal going on in the area. Number 7. The Vanishing Hitchhiker. In central Arkansas, there is a chilling ghost story that's commonly told around Halloween. Introducing the tale of the Vanishing Hitchhiker. According to the legend, travelers on the dark road of Arkansas Highway 365 sometimes encounter a young girl walking in the pouring rain in a torn white dress while crossing one spooky bridge. Some say they have stopped to give the young girl a ride. Those who stop say that they pick her up and drive her to her nearby home. However, when they arrive, the drivers discover that the girl has suddenly disappeared. Those who choose to knock on the front door of the home the young girl takes them to learn from a woman who answers that the young girl used to live at the home but was killed in a car accident, and she usually regularly hitchhikes a ride home, according to legend. One man recalled the time this happened to him, where he picked up the girl and even gave the girl his jacket. As expected, when they arrived, she disappeared, and when he went to the door, a woman answered, and he explained explain what had just occurred. The woman at the door said, quote, "That young girl is my daughter, who was killed years ago. She hitchhikes back home once a year." The young man then drove to the cemetery to see the young girl's grave. There he found his coat draped over her tombstone. Number 6, the Gosrow. Arkansas not only has haunted homes and stories, but they also have their own terrifying creatures. These were known as the Gosrow. This monster is believed to be a massive 20-foot long creature with tusks and claws. But that's not even the most interesting part of them. On January 31st, 1897, the Arkansas Gazette, a popular newspaper of the time, published an article written by Elbert Smithy that included the sketch of this creature, and also an account of the first known encounter with it. The encounter, as described by Smithy, took place in the Ozark Forest, where a man named William Miller was traveling through the tiny town of Blanco. Miller had heard reports of livestock and pets being found dead, so he formed a group to track down the predator. They eventually encountered a creature that was 20 feet long with tusks and claws, as well as a row of horns along its back and a tail that ended in a blade-like point. The group supposedly killed the beast, but the body that Miller swore he shipped to the Smithsonian never arrived. The eerie scream that was heard in the forest before the encounter, which sounded like a gaw-row, gave the urban legend its name. There are several possible explanations for the legend of this creature. Smithy may have just wanted attention for claiming to know the details of this elusive creature, or the story may have been a case of mistaken identity. The tusk and horns could have belonged to a razorback pig, or since the creature was said to have emerged from the lake, an alligator could have been the culprit. But despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of the Gosrow has continued to captivate the imagination of the citizens of Arkansas for over 125 years. It may be a tall tale, but you never know what could be lurking in those forests. In the hump of our list, we have the Eureka Springs. Eureka Spring, Arkansas is a small town that is known for its immense paranormal activity. While some see it primarily as a gorgeous little Victorian village and a wonderful place to react, others consider it a hotbed for paranormal activity and also one of the most haunted places in Arkansas. Both perspectives are valid, of course, but mostly Eureka Springs is complex, a place where a vibrant, quirky little town is overrun with hauntings. Don't let the cheery buildings and nice folks fool you. The souls of the departed lives in Eureka Springs too. One of the most famous haunted places in the town is the 1886 Crescent Hotel. The hotel has been featured on the Travel Channel and is famous for its haunted room 218, where the ghost of Michael, who fell to his death during the hotel's construction, is said to reside. Guests have reported feeling a presence in the room, and some have even claimed to have seen the ghostly figure of Michael himself. The entire Crescent Hotel is full of ghosts, partly because it was once used as a cancer hospital, complete with a morgue that is also one of the most haunted places on the grounds. Number 4, the Allen House. The Allen House in Monticello, Arkansas is a beautiful 1906 Queen Anne Victorian style home, but it has a dark history that has made it a popular spot for ghost hunters and history enthusiasts alike. The house was built by local businessman Joe Lee Allen and was intended to be a showpiece in the town, with impressive porch columns and neoclassical design with a touch of Gothic decoration. Allen, along with his wife and 3 daughters, moved into the family home, and for a while they were content. Allen's business ventures thrived and all was well, until his death in 1917. Then in 1949, another tragedy happened that would cast a shadow over the house's majestic appearance. During the last week of 1948, daughter Liddell Allen poisoned herself after consuming mercury cyanide. The new year would begin on a dark note with Liddell's death. For nearly 40 years, her room was sealed off by her mother. Then after Mrs. Allen died in 1954, the home was sectioned into apartments and remained a rental property run by the Allen family. Tenants began seeing strange things and experiencing paranormal activity not long after they moved in. Shadowy figures would appear in photographs taken by residents, and furniture was rearranged with no one having touched anything. Objects around the house would disappear into thin air, and ever since, the story of Liddell grew into urban legend, and the Allen house was declared haunted by both residents and locals alike. Number 3, the Cotter Bridge. The R.M. Ruthven Rainbow Arch Bridge, also known as the Cotter Bridge, is a man-made wonder located in the town of Cotter, North Arkansas. Built in 1930 and renovated in 2004, it spans the White River and is known for its architectural marvel, trout fishing, and natural beauty. But beneath its lovely trusses, the bridge is also home to some spooky legends and ghost stories that have been passed down through generations. One of the most popular legends of the Cotter Bridge is the ghostly children that play on it during some nights. Visitors have reported hearing their laughter and chatter, but when they look for the children, they just disappear. While there is no concrete evidence to prove that these children are ghosts, the eerie and mysterious nature of their presence have left many visitors wondering. Another chilling tale that surrounds the Cotter Bridge is the ghost of a woman who is said to be chased by hounds. Visitors have reported hearing her screams and the baying of the hounds, but when they look for the source, they see nothing. The identity of the woman remains unknown, and the reason for her ghostly presence is also a mystery. Some say that she may have been the victim of a tragic event that occurred near the bridge, while others believe she may have been the spirit of someone who drowned in the White River below. Number 2, the Gurdon Light. The Gurdon Ghost Light is a mysterious and unexplained phenomenon that has been observed and documented in the small town of Gurdon, Arkansas. The light, which is said to be an eerie white-blue color that sways back and forth and moves around on a horizon, has been reported by locals and tourists alike. One popular legend surrounding the light is that it's the ghost of a railway worker who was killed on the job. According to this theory, the ghost is said to be carrying a lantern and roaming the tracks, searching for something. Another theory suggests that the light is the ghost of a railway worker who fell in front of a train and lost his head, and the light is coming from the lantern he carried in life as he searches for his missing head. While the true origins of the Gurdon Light ghost are unknown, there are a few natural theories as to what it might be. Some scientists have suggested it could be caused by highway lights reflecting through the trees, but historians and local residents disagree, as the light has been reported since before the highway was even built. Number 1, the Pea Ridge National Military Park. The Pea Ridge National Military Park in Arkansas is a place where history and a mystery collide. The battlefield is a haunting reminder of the brutal and bloody battle that took place here in 1962 during the Civil War. Here, the Confederate Army, outnumbered by the Union Army, fought bravely but ultimately lost the battle, resulting in the deaths of nearly 3,400 men and boys. Visitors to the battlefield have reported strange and eerie experiences that seem to be connected to the intense history of the place. Many have reported hearing cannon fire in the night, feeling strange presences following them around the battlefield, and hearing the shouts of boys who died on the bloody ground. The Confederate Army, made up of mostly boys, Texicans, and Missourians, were advancing north in hopes of capturing St. Louis in Missouri. They were exhausted, running low on food and ammunition, and their spirits were dampened by early losses at Pea Ridge. Meanwhile, the Union Army, led by a commander who is considered more of a politician than a war-tested general, rallied around a hot breakfast, proud of their success on the first day of battle and glad to have faced down an army that significantly outnumbered them. The battle lasted for 2 days, March 6th through March 8th, and at 10:30 a.m. on the morning of March 8th, the Confederate Army began its retreat, and by that time the smoke cleared, the battlefield was littered with the bodies of fallen soldiers. The eerie feeling of the battlefield may be due to the intense history, and considering that 3,400 people lost their lives here, it's not a surprise you may see at least one spirit. Number 10, the death of Julia Lagar. Back in the mid-1800s, a young woman named Julia Lagar was visiting family and then suddenly fell ill. She slipped into a coma shortly after, and despite her family's hopes and prayers, she never woke up from it. The family physician declared her dead, and Julia was lovingly dressed for her funeral. In those days, there was no embalming fluids or preservation methods, so the ceremonial activities surrounding death were conducted at a very rapid pace. Julia was buried on the same day as her death, with loved ones paying their last respects. Her little body was taken to the family mausoleum, and the door was closed and locked. But 15 years later, another death in the family required the mausoleum to be opened once again. And to the horror of the family, they discovered that Julia's remains were crumpled at the foot of the mausoleum door. So basically, she had been buried alive. It was believed that the family physician was wrong and that she was in a deep coma where her respiratory and heart rates dropped precariously low. The tragedy of Julia's death led to a strange phenomenon that still continues to this day. The door of the mausoleum would open and close by itself. Chains and unbreakable locks were used to keep it sealed, but they would always break somehow. As recently as 50 years ago, they put a door that could only be removed by industrial heavy machinery, and even that door was opened. It is said that Julia's spirit guards the mausoleum, making sure no one dares put a door back on the building that killed her all those years ago. Visitors to the church head to the cemetery every year to take a look at the mausoleum, and some claim to have captured mysterious images on their camera. Number 9, boo hags. In South Carolina's Gula culture, there is a folklore creature called the boo hag. According to legend, boo hags are similar to vampires, but instead of nourishing blood, they feed off a person's breath by riding their victims. And it kind of looks something like this. And I know it looks like something else, but remember, there is nothing pleasurable about this. The buhaks are said to have no skin, which gives them this red appearance. So they will steal a victim's skin and use it as a disguise while they're out riding. They will then remove and hide the skin before they return home. The buhak usually gain access to a victim's home by finding small openings like cracks or holes in the wall, and then they position themselves above the sleeping victim and just suck their breath. This makes the victims helpless and induces a very deep sleep. They tend to leave the victim alive so they could just use them again. However, if the victim struggles, the hag may just take their skin, leaving the victim to suffer, or worse, just die. After taking the victim's energy, the hag just flies off, as they must be in their skin before dawn or be trapped without skin. Victims of the creature may wake up feeling tired or short of breath, but that's only if you're lucky to be alive. There's an expression that's often used in South Carolina saying, "Don't let the hag ride ya," which refers to this legend. It is also believed that placing a broom beside your bed before sleeping would prevent the hag from riding, as it would distract the hag into counting the straws and would not get to ride the person before the sunrise. So don't forget, keep your brooms by your bed. Number 8, Lavinia Fisher. Lavinia Fisher, born in 1793, is considered to be the first widely recognized female serial killer in the United States. Though her birth location and maiden name are unknown, her story has been passed down through generations as a cautionary tale. Legend has it that Fisher and her husband John operate a hotel called the 6 Mile Wayfarer House near Charleston, South Carolina in the early 1800s. As time went by, men visiting Charleston began to disappear, and it was determined that they were last seen at this hotel. Despite an investigation by local authorities, no evidence was found to connect the Fishers to the crimes, so the investigation was cold and just dropped. But more people would disappear, and all the leads just brought them back to this hotel. Just for background information, Lavinia was known for her beauty and her charm, and had been using these qualities to lure in unsuspecting male travelers to their hotel. There they would rob and proceed to murder them after. For example, John Peoples, a traveler from Georgia, stopped at the hotel and was warmly greeted by Lavinia. She invited him in for tea and a meal, but he soon started feeling really uncomfortable with all the information he had provided and worried he might become a target for robbery. He managed to escape and flee to authorities in Charleston, and this is when the Fishers were finally arrested. They searched the entire hotel, and the authorities found evidence of dozens of travelers, a tea laced with an herb that can put someone for sleep for hours, and a mechanism that could be triggered to open the floorboards beneath the bed. And when they went into the basement, they found as many as hundreds of sets of human remains. The Fishers pleaded not guilty, but were ordered to stay in jail until their trial. Then in May 1820, they were found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. Number 7, the Lizard Man of Scape or Swamp. Deep in the swampland of Bishopville, South Carolina, lies a reptilian creature that has terrorized the state since the 1980s. The Lizard Man of Scape or Swamp, also known as the Lizard Man of Lee County, has been reported to inhabit this area for decades, leaving many to wonder about its existence. The first sighting began in July 1988 when the Lee County Sheriff's Office investigated a report of a car damaged overnight in the area of Browntown. The car had tooth marks, scratches, and muddy footprints left behind, which was very odd to begin with, but this eventually kickstarted the entire legend. Prompted by this news, a 17-year-old local named Christopher Davis reported to the sheriff as well, saying that his car was damaged by a creature 2 weeks prior. He described the creature as being 7 feet tall with green wet-like skin, 3 fingers, red eyes, and snake-like scales. This claim of encountering the creature set off a media frenzy. Newspapers, radio, and television stations started to report on the story. Local businesses even began selling Lizard Man t-shirts, and the local Chamber of Commerce encouraged the media attention as good for the community. A local radio station even offered $1 million for a reward for anyone who's able to capture the creature alive. However, with time, reports of the sightings gradually declined, and law enforcement officials speculated that the sightings were likely to just be a bear. But a bear and a lizard are significantly 2 different creatures, so who knows what these people just saw. Number 6, the Gray Man. Palsy Island in South Carolina is a summer resort town that boasts of beautiful beaches, tranquil marshes, and historic homes. But beyond its natural beauty, it is also home to a mysterious legend of the Gray Man, who is a figure said to appear on the beach prior to every single major hurricane that has struck the island for more than 200 years. According to the locals, seeing the Gray Man is a sign of danger for impending storms, obviously for hurricanes as we just mentioned. Eyewitness accounts vary, but most people describe the Gray Man as a figure dressed in all gray clothing, Obviously, they appear on the beach either stepping out of the dunes or waving to boaters from the shore before vanishing without a word. The majority of the sightings have occurred in Palsy Island, but there's also been reports of sightings in other coastal towns nearby. One of the most famous encounters with the Gray Man took place in 1989, just 2 days before Hurricane Hugo came about. Locals Jim and Clara Moore were just taking a walk on the beach when they saw a lone figure walking towards them. As he got closer, Jim raised his hand to say hi, but the figure disappeared right before his eyes. Their home suffered little damage during the storm, and Claire attributes this to their good fortune to the Gray Man and the Lord. The next time you're on vacation in Palsy Island, keep an eye out for the Gray Man. And remember, if you see him, it might be wise to heed his warning and seek shelter. In the hump of our list, we have the third-eyed man. If you didn't know, the University of South Carolina is home to a network of mysterious underground tunnels known as the catacombs. And no, not the one from Paris, but still pretty creepy. These tunnels in the university have a rich history dating back to the 1800s, where it is said to have been used for the Civil War. But beneath the surface of these historical tunnels lies a dark legend, one that has kept students and locals alike on edge for decades. The third-eyed man is said to be a mutant humanoid creature who resides in the catacombs. The first documented sighting of the bizarre creature was on November 12, 1949, when a student at the university spotted a strange man entering the sewer manhole outside Long Street Theater. The student Christopher Nichols wrote about his encounter in the campus newspaper, dubbing the creature as the Sewer Man, although this is not really confirmed as there is no mention of this in the newspaper archives. The following year, the third-eyed man was spotted once again, this time by a university police officer. The officer saw scattered chicken remains all around the loading dock of Long Street Theater, and here is when he saw a strange man hunch over them, described as having a grotesque and distorted feature with a third eye in the center of his forehead and silver skin. Number 4, the Ghost Hound of Goshen Hill. The Ghost Hound of Goshen is a creature that is said to lurk on Buncombe Road, between the Ebenezer Church in Newberry County and the Goshen Hill in Union County in South Carolina. This ghostly hound is known to chase anyone who dares to trespass its territory, but fortunately it has never caught anyone, as far as we know. The origin of the ghost hound is shrouded in complete mystery, but some say it was once a pet of a peddler who was falsely accused of murder and hanged. His dog, unable to accept the loss of his master, is said to have remained by his grave until it died of starvation or was said to have been killed by townsfolk. The first recorded sighting of the ghost hound happened in 1855. A young houseworker who was sent to fetch a doctor was terrified by an enormous white dog that followed him all the way to the doctor's home, as well as claiming it was the largest dog he has ever seen. The doctor dismissed the boy's story, but it wasn't long before more and more people had encounters with the hound. Number 3, the Poinsett Bridge. The Poinsett Bridge, located in the northern mountains of Greenville County, South Carolina, is a historical bridge that is considered to be the most haunted bridge in the state as well. The bridge is believed to have been designed by Robert Mills, who is a native of South Carolina and an architect of many notable buildings such as the Washington Monument and the US Treasury Building. And it is also named after Joel Poinsett, a politician from South Carolina who served as a president of the state's Board of Public Works during its construction. But the Poinsett Bridge is not just famous for its history and architecture, but also for its paranormal activity. There are stories of workers falling ill and dying during its construction, with legends saying that a body is buried within the bridge. Others claim that ghostly workers from Ireland return to visit the bridge at night, while another legend tells of a man who was shot and killed on the bridge in 1861, whose headless body returns on rainy nights. Visitors have reported ghostly encounters, eerie sounds, and sudden car troubles. And to add to its validity, Poinsett Bridge is considered one of the 30 most haunted places in America by the CN Traveler. Number 2, Morgan Island. Morgan Island, also known as Monkey Island, is a small island located off the coast of South Carolina in the United States. It is home to a species of monkey that were introduced to the island in the 1970s for scientific research. The monkeys quickly adapted to their new environment and their population grew rapidly. Today, there is an estimated 4,000 monkeys living on this island. While the monkeys may seem cute and harmless, they can be aggressive and have been known to attack visitors to the island. And to make matters worse, they say the monkeys are naturally infected with herpes B, which is completely deadly to us. As a result, the island is off limits to the public and can only be visited with permission from the research facility that manages the monkey population. In addition to the monkeys, Morgan Island is home to a variety of other wildlife that may scare you. This includes alligators, snakes, and all sorts of poisonous and venomous creatures. And obviously, only researchers are allowed here. And funny enough, their first rule when they come here is to not get peed on by the monkeys because it can literally be fatal. Number 1, Battery Carriage House. If you're a paranormal enthusiast and you're in Charleston, South Carolina, you may consider staying a night at the Battery Carriage House Inn, which is known to be the most haunted hotel in the city. The Battery Carriage House Inn has a rich history dating back to 1843 when it was purchased by Samuel N. Stevens, who's a prosperous lender and a broker of crops. The property has changed hands several times over the years, including during the Civil War when it was used as a defense base against Union intruders. The last owner, Andrew Simons, was a phosphate mining businessman and the founder of the First National Bank of South Carolina. Today, the hotel is owned by Drayden Hasty, the great-great-grandson of Andrew Simmons. The inn's haunted reputation is not to be taken lightly too, as there has been multiple ghostly encounters reported by guests and staff members alike. Room 8 is said to be the most haunted, with a headless torso ghost that is said to be sitting in the middle of the room. Guests say this ghost meets them during some nights and even growls at them. Room 10 is also said to be visited by a gentleman ghost who crawls into the bed with female guests and disappears through a built-in entertainment unit when confronted. The hotel staff also speculates that the ghost in room 8 may be a Civil War soldier who was the victim of a munition accident. The ghost in room 10, however, is said to be the spirit of a man who has an untimely death at the inn. Would you stay a night at this hotel? Cause I probably wouldn't. At a number 10 spot, we have the ghost of Mr. Chu. Once upon a time in Dover's Green, Delaware, there was once a man named Samuel Chu who served as the chief justice in the town. Despite his position, the townspeople made fun of him for his name, pretending to sneeze whenever they saw him. You know, like, Chu? This constant teasing eventually took its toll on Samuel Chu after he passed away in 1743. It seemed that his death didn't bring him peace, as his ghost soon started haunting the town immediately. The first person to report an encounter with the ghost of Samuel Chu was farmer David Hendricks. He claimed that on a cold autumn night, the ghost appeared to him dressed in the judge's robe and white powdered wig. As the farmer was on his way to the tavern, the ghost chased after him, causing him to run home in terror. The story of the ghost quickly spread throughout the town, and soon after, residents reported sightings of this apparition as well. Over time, people in Dover became afraid to leave their homes after dark, and the once thriving taverns in the town started to empty out. The tavern owners became worried about their livelihood, and so one of them, Mistress Van Loon, called the town meeting to discuss a solution. She suggested that the ghost could be laid to rest by giving him a proper burial. The town agreed, and Samuel Chu's ghost was given a grand funeral in an ornate grave. Although the ghost was said to be satisfied with his new resting place, there was still tales of him roaming the streets and tormenting those who made fun of his name by sneezing when they hear it. Number 9, Fort Delaware. Fort Delaware, located on Pea Patch Island in the Delaware River, is a piece of American history that has been preserved to this day. The fort was first built in 1859 with the purpose of protecting the ports of Willingham and Philadelphia during the Spanish-American War. During the Civil War, it was also used as a prison camp for Confederate soldiers. The conditions at Fort Delaware were brutal, however, and many prisoners perished as a result, leading to reports of ghostly apparitions and strange occurrences that still persist to this day. With nearly 13,000 prisoners kept in wooden barracks, conditions at this fort were inhumane. Food rations were small and almost inedible, water was putrefied, and prisoners were subjected to torturous conditions, such as officers throwing rats in the crowds for their amusement. Scurvy, smallpox, and severe malnutrition were widespread. It is not surprising then that many of the 2,700 men who perished at the fort, as well as those who lived to be freed, continue to haunt the prison to this day. Visitors to the fort report a range of supernatural activities, ranging from being tapped on to feeling as if someone is breathing directly on them. So if you dare, you can actually take a 5-hour tour here for paranormal purposes only. Number 8, the Shelbyville Swamp Monster. The legend of the Shelbyville Swamp Monster has been known to the residents of Delaware since early 1960s. According to the tale, a grotesque creature dwells in the Great Cypress Swamp, terrorizing locals and visitors alike. However, the truth behind this legend is far more intriguing than the story itself. In 1987, it was revealed that the entire monster hoax was created by Ralph Grapperhaus, the editor of Delmarva News, and his friend Fred Stevens. Grapperhaus, who is known for his love of a good prank, Stevens, who was 26 at the time, dressed up in a costume made of his Aunt Dorothy's old raccoon hat, a mask, and a club, and then hid in the shallows of the woods. He would jump out at passing cars on Route 54, creating the illusion of a monster inside of the swamp. The news of the alleged monster sightings soon spread like wildfire, and a photo of the Shelbyville Swamp Monster even made the front page of the Delmarva News on April 23, 1964. Stevens even participated in the hunt to find this creature, adding fuel to the fire of the hoax. However, Stevens eventually stopped the charade out of fear for his safety. It wasn't until 23 years later that the truth behind the legend was finally revealed. Despite the revelation, residents continued to report sightings of the monster in the Great Cypress Swamp. Some people believe that the creature was not entirely a hoax and that a monster still may be roaming the foggy shadows of the swamp. In the 1920s, a couple of hunters reported hearing loud, inhumane screaming followed by sounds of something large and heavy racing towards them. This has led some, including local author Andy Nunes, to question if there may be some truth to the legend after all. Number 7. Catman's Grave. The Long Cemetery, also known as Colonel Armwell Long Cemetery, is located at the end of an old dirt road in southeastern Delaware. It was established as a family plot for Colonel Armwell Long, who served in the Revolutionary War, and his family after his death in 1834. The land was later turned into a public cemetery in his memory, with Armwell being the first official burial. One of the most famous stories related to the cemetery is that of the Catman. The Catman was a former caretaker of the cemetery who lived in a nearby home and was known for chasing away any teenagers who came to the cemetery to cause any sort of trouble. After his death, the Catman was buried in an above-ground tomb in the cemetery, but even in death, he continued to watch over the cemetery and was still said to take care for it. However, the tomb was torn down in 1994 due to vandalism, and the Catman was given a regular in-ground burial. People who saw the tomb before it was torn down reported seeing strange scratches on the inside that were said to resemble those of a cat's claws. It is believed that if someone knocks on the wall of the cemetery 3 times, they will summon the Catman, who will cause a visitor's car to fail, making it difficult for them to leave. Despite no longer being the caretaker of the cemetery, the Catman is still said to have no patience for anyone messing around in his cemetery. Number 6. The Old Maggie's Bridge. Located on Woodland Church Road in Seaford or Woodland, Delaware, it is known for being one of the most haunted roads in the state. This is what it looks like in the daytime. Looks pretty normal. Well, you're wrong, cause this short bridge holds a dark and eerie history, as it is said that a young woman named Maggie Bloxham was decapitated in an accident on the bridge in the late 19th century. To add to the horror, her grave can be found in a local cemetery, with the cause of her death being listed as young and pregnant. Maggie's spirit is believed to still haunt the bridge, searching for her lost baby and possibly her head. According to local legend, if you visit the bridge at night, you should get out of your car and yell into the night, "Maggie, Maggie, I have your baby." People have reported seeing figures moving about the woods on either side of the bridge, and photographs often come back with orbs dancing in the dark, and it is said that the best time to visit the bridge is during a full moon, when Maggie can be seen in all of her ghostly glory. There are multiple accounts of cars acting strangely on the bridge, with engines failing to start, gears shifting out of place, or the car moving on its own after the engine has been turned off. These experiences has led regular paranormal investigations at the site, and many locals swear that Maggie's ghost is still very active and can be seen on the right nights. In the hump of our list, we have the Pukwudgie. The Pukwudgie is a mythical creature from Wampanoag folklore, originating from Delaware and Prince Edward Island. According to the legend, the Pukwudgies are a human-like creature that can appear and disappear at will, and they also have the ability to shapeshift, use magic, launch poison arrows, and create fire. They are known to cause trouble for those who annoy them and are considered to be hostile to humans. Native American folklore suggests that the Pukwudgies were once friendly to humans, but then turned against them out of jealousy towards the cultural heroes Michelle and Granny Squanit. Ever since, the Pukwudgies are said to have kidnapped, attacked, and blinded their victims, and now are labeled as dangerous creatures. They are known to have caused mischief and torment to the Native American community, and are said to have killed Maushop's 5 sons, while some variations suggest that they may have killed Maushop himself. Whether or not you think they are good or not, they are definitely a creature best to avoid. Number 4. The Zeewanhendiao Mermaid. In the early 17th century, Dutch settlers attempted to establish a settlement named Zeewanhendiao in what is now Delaware, USA. Although the colony was short-lived and destroyed after a single year, it is now remembered as the first European settlement in the area. To commemorate the 300th anniversary of its founding, the Zeewanhendiao Museum was created, showcasing the history of southeastern Delaware and this thing. Yeah, I don't know about that. This is a supposed mummified mermaid that was given to the prominent Martin family by a sea captain and eventually lent to this museum. The mermaid, however, is not the beautiful mythical creature that one might expect. Instead, it has a simian face with large rigid eye sockets and a wide toothy mouth. Its hands are clawed like a reptile and its torso is covered in bony ridges. The creature is small, less than a foot in length, and its skin and scales are ashy gray black. But in reality, not to burst anyone's bubbles, the mermaid is a clever taxidermy specimen that bears a closer resemblance to a Fiji mermaid made classic by P.T. Barnum. This tradition of taxidermied monsters can be traced back to the misemono, a type of carnival in old Edo, which is modern day Tokyo, where mummified mermaids and other supernatural creatures were displayed as carnival attractions. These creatures were believed to bring good luck and fortune to attendees and were often constructed from the bodies of fish and small monkeys dressed with paper mache, wood, and lacquer. Over time, these fake mermaids or ningyo made their way overseas and became popular curiosities for sailors from America and Europe, where the folklore behind the creature was lost, leaving a blank canvas for new mythologies to be written. Number 3, the Addie C Inn. The Addie C Inn in Bethany Beach, Delaware is a charming Victorian-style bed and breakfast that was built by the Addie family in 1902. This historic establishment is also known for being one of the most haunted places in the state of Delaware. One of the most famous hauntings at the Addie C Inn is that of a copper bathtub in room 1 that vibrates mysteriously. Guests have reported experiencing the tub shaking violently, and the story of the shaking tub has become one of the most well-known tales associated with the inn. There are also reports of eerie organ music heard coming from room 6, despite no organ being present in the room. Guests have reported the ghostly apparition of someone running through the hallways at night, accompanied by the smells of perfume and the sounds of mysterious music. Room 11 is believed to be haunted by Paul Dulaney, a former handyman who worked for the Addie family, while Curtis Addie's ghost is said to roam the roof of the inn, restless after falling to his death from the roof many years prior. Number 2, the Governor's Mansion. The Governor's Mansion, also known as Woodburn, is a grand and historic building in Dover, Delaware. This stately abode was constructed in the late 1700s by Charles Hildyard III and has served as the official residence of Delaware's governors for many years. But there's more to the story of Woodburn than just its impressive exterior. For generations, people have whispered about the ghostly happenings that seem to occur within its walls. The first recorded instance of paranormal activity dates back to just 25 years after the house was built, when Charles Hildyard III passed away. According to the legend, the owners of the mansion at the time invited a Methodist preacher to stay with them. During a morning prayer session, the preacher requested they wait for the other guest who was staying in the guest house. The couple claimed that there was no one else visiting, but the preacher went on to describe his ghostly roommates in vivid detail, matching Charles Hildyard III's appearance exactly. Since then, many have reported strange and unusual occurrences within the mansion's walls. Some say that the ghost of Charles Hildyard himself still roams inside of this building, and that if you leave a glass of wine on the stairs for him, you'll find it drained by the morning. Other ghostly sightings included the screams of a slave who was caught and killed near the mansion's porch while running from slave hunters, and the ghostly figure of a young girl dressed in a gingham dress and bonnet carrying a candle and roaming the grounds. Whether you're a paranormal enthusiast or simply a lover of all things historical, the Governor's Mansion is definitely worth a visit. Number 1, the Dead President's Hub. The Dead President's Hub and Restaurant in Willingham, Delaware is a popular gathering spot with a rich and spooky history. The pub is located in a historical part of the city and is known for its presidential memorabilia and paranormal activity. Despite being in business only since the late 1990s, the two-story space has a long and varied history, having served as a private residency and several other businesses, including bars, over the years. Visitors of the pub claim to feel a dark and heavy presence, with strange occurrences such as glass rattling on their own and rooms becoming extremely cold all of a sudden. Late at night, employees have reported hearing childlike giggles and witnessing dishes flying across the room. One ghostly figure that is rumored to visit the pub regularly is Lemonade Mullery, who is said to have died from a fall in the bathroom in the 1960s. Several paranormal investigation teams have been drawn to the pub to study the ghostly activity, and they all agree that the place is teeming with entities that feel like they're part of the staff.